forgiveness. This is my 6th video in my series, Healing Past Trauma and Abuse Through Christ. So the first couple of videos that I did, they were about the foundational piece of this for me. And again, this is just my journey and how I got to where I am right now. And the first thing that I needed to do was to ask for healing and then accept that healing from God. And the second part of my journey was forgiveness. And that was absolutely the most difficult piece for me. I did not want to forgive. I was like, no way am I going to forgive. No. But you have to. You have to forgive if you want to get past this. And so this video, what I'm going to be talking about in this video is how I prepared to move into that forgiveness phase. And it's part of the forgiveness phase, but it's like, so any warrior, before they go into battle, they have to make sure that they have their allies and all of the things that they need before they take a single step forward. And you've got to understand this is a battle. And this is a battle on multiple fronts. So how do we prepare? How did I prepare for that? And I'm going to try to talk about this in how I did it. And I know it's not going to be the same for everybody, but I just want to share with you my testimony. And the first thing that I needed was a support system in place. And I didn't even know that I needed it until I saw that I had it. And it's really interesting. Like Sunday after church, we have lunch together, the whole church. And I was just sitting there after lunch with a couple of ladies, and I was just like, blah, right? Here's my past. And I didn't tell them everything, but I told them enough. And they just immediately, without hesitation, put hands on me and began to pray. And I could physically feel the effects of that prayer. And I still get kind of goosebumps today thinking about it. It was so powerful. And that was the time in my life that I realized that I could actually do this, that I could be better. I could heal from this, and I could get through this, and I can forgive these people who I never thought I could forgive. All right? So number one, you need a support system. And I'm very lucky. The Lord led me to Calvary Chapel in Fuchu, Tokyo. And I know that there are, some really bad churches out there. I get it. I understand that. But there are also some really great ones. And I really encourage you to find a great church. And if you just can't find a church, then find a prayer group. And if you can't find a prayer group, find a Christian support group. Or find a group of Christian friends who are going to lift you up in prayer. Because you're going to need prayers of strength. You're going to need prayers of endurance. But even more than that, let me tell you, you're going to need prayers of protection. Because this thing that you've been holding on to, this thing that I held on to for 46 years, that was Satan's control over my life. And as long as I held on to this trauma, then I was not being obedient to God, and that meant Satan had a stronghold in my life. And that's what he does. He uses your trauma, and he uses what happened to you, and he uses your past to try to keep you from God. And so the moment that you take a step to rid him of that control, you better believe he's going to throw everything he has at you. And so you're going to need prayer warriors who are on the ready to cover you and your family with prayers of protection, because he's going to come for you. And so a support system is really, really important. And I just cannot emphasize how important that is. And these ladies, I still have them around me today. They're still praying for me today. And, this is a very long process. So they're going to be praying for me for a long, long time. So, you need that support. You need support. You've got to have it. And now the second thing for me was answering the question of why. Why? Why do I have to forgive? It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. I had things done to me, right? So why is it me that has to forgive? Well, that's my pride. And I understand it. Man, I get it. When you're traumatized, when you go through something, you just hold on to whatever you can hold on to. And for me, that was my little bit of control. Because my childhood, I didn't have any control. I didn't have anything. So I clamped onto that, and man, that was mine. And so the longer you hold on to unforgiveness in your heart, the harder it is to get rid of, because it takes root, right? And it just kind of digs in. And so I've been holding on to this for 46 years. So it's quite deep. And I had to really understand why I had to forgive. And there are scriptural reasons, of course. The main easy answer is you forgive because God tells you that you must forgive. Leviticus 19:18 tells us not to hold grudges, not to seek revenge. That's going to be God. God's going to take care of that for us. Matthew 6:14 and 18:35 tell us that if we don't forgive others, God is not going to forgive us. What? Wait a minute. Hold on. Mark 11:25 takes it further. Mark 11:25 tells us that if we go and we pray and we have unforgiveness in our heart, our prayers are going to be hindered. Okay, so what does this mean, right? I thought I was saved. What do you mean he's not going to forgive me? Am I going to lose my salvation? No, you are not going to lose your salvation. That is not what this is talking about. I believe what this is talking about is it's going to interfere with your walk with God, with your fellowship with Christ. You cannot walk with God and hold unforgiveness in your heart. All right? You have to be obedient to God. You have to be submissive. You have to do as he tells you to do. And as a Christian, my goal is to live like Christ. I want to be like Christ. And what did Christ do? Hanging up on the cross, his greatest moment of torment, what did he do? He forgave us. We didn't ask for it. We surely did not deserve it. We're walking by and we're mocking him as he's hanging there. And what is he doing? He is forgiving us. So there's your example. You want to be like Christ, and you got to be like Christ. And sometimes God's going to tell you to do things that you don't want to do. And I did not want to do this. So I'm right there. I didn't want to do it. It was my little piece of holding on. I was just not going to do it. And my mother, she's still alive. She's living in Texas somewhere. She probably doesn't think about me. She certainly doesn't think that she needs to be forgiven for anything. But it's not her that I'm forgiving her for. I'm forgiving her because God has told me to. And I now realize that I'm forgiving her for me. It's for me. It's so that I can be obedient and walk with God. And also it releases so much. So if you're filled to the brim, right, with anger and hatred and bitterness and all of this rage and all of these things, guess what there's no room for? There's no room in there for God. You got to get rid of that junk so that you can be filled up with him. And that's just a fact. If you want to be filled up with Christ, you got to get rid of all that other junk that's in there. And I didn't realize how full I was. But man, I was full. I was pretty full. I was very angry. And it affected every area of my life. And again, this video is just getting you to where you're ready to step into that forgiveness, right? And this is part of the forgiveness phase, but it's just trying to prepare you for the work that you're about to have to do. And my next video is really going to be the meat of forgiveness, and that's probably going to take several videos, and I do not think I can do that in under 10 minutes. So I'm trying, but it's really hard to keep these under 10 minutes. So I'm just trying to have a conversation with you guys about how I got to where I'm at. And so you know what? I don't want my past defining me. I don't want my mother defining me. I don't want my father defining me. I don't want my past mistakes defining me. I want God to define me. And if I want God to define me, then I need to let go of all of those things. And I don't know about you guys, but I was so sick of being the woman who was abused by her parents. I didn't want to be that anymore. And so I stepped into the woman who was rescued by God. And then I stepped into the woman who's being used by God, right? And that is so much more fulfilling than the woman who was abused by her parents. So let me just say to you that when you're stuck on these things, like why do I have to do it? You're doing it for you. Don't ever think that you're doing it for anybody else. They don't even need to know that you've forgiven them. God will know that you've forgiven them, but you have to do it. So there it is, right? You need a support system. And if you don't have a support system, you cannot get a support system, just in the comments below, type add me or DM me, and I'm going to add you to my prayer list. And I'm going to pray for you, and my church is going to pray for you. We're going to get you up, lifted up in prayer. And you need to read your Bible. You need to pray, and you've got to get ready. You've got to understand why you have to forgive, and you have to be ready for the hard work that's coming. So that is going to be it for me today. My next video, again, is going to be the meat of forgiveness. We're going to move into that quickly. I'm going to be praying for you guys. God bless you, and I will talk to you all very soon.